Hello everyone, welcome back to my channel. In this session, we are going to see how to use Spring for GraphQL, where you can perform the save, update, and delete operation. So these are all the dependencies that is required. So let's get started with the Spring initializer. Fill out the details and download this project. And once downloaded, I have a project like with basic skeleton of saving JPA details, all those things. So I'm going to start from GraphQL schema file. So basically, in my previous video, you might have seen how to perform the query operation using query mapping using GraphQL. So now we are going to work on the mutation part. Mutation is nothing but you can perform save, update, and delete operation. So for that, you need to type of mutation. Inside that, you have to define what is the query. So we are going to perform add user. So in the bracket, you have to pass what is the input. So I'm going to create a new object called user details. For that, we need to create a new variable for that, a local variable. And then what is the response type for this? So the response will be the type of user only. So you can see in line number 6. So I'm going to use the same structure for input as well. Why I'm not using the same user? Because I need input instead of type. So I have to replace input. And then if you can see this user detail, it should match with what we have in the Java object. Okay, so let's create a new mutation mapping. Okay, this is in controller class, so I'm adding at mutation mapping public returning user, and then the same name what we have defined in the schema add user. So that you have to put it here. So in the argument, I'm going to pass user detail itself. So argument user detail and then that object. Make sure this user detail is matching with the schema, the object name. That is very important for the mapping. And then inside that, you see these are all the parameters. Make sure you have the same naming convention with the same parameters. Otherwise, you will get a null data. Okay. So in that, I have this written. I have already defined the user service for adding that detail into database using the repositories and entities with the help of JPA. Okay, so I'm going to call that and pass this params. If you see inside that, I have a new object of user where I'm setting all those details using with the help of repositories. I'm saving that into a database. So only the front entry point is going to change in the GraphQL. Rest all is going to remain same. What we have done for database with the JPA entity, all those things. Okay. Now I have added. So let's add a debug point and let me start the application. So the application is getting started on 8080 port, as you can see here. So make sure you have to type localhost /8080/graph IQL. Okay, then GraphQL will have its own user interface where you can send the payload and test it. It's very similar to Postman, but this request and response is a little bit different. So they have provided their own UI. So just you need to add a few parameter details on the application properties. So this will get enabled. So I'm just passing mutation add user. This is nothing, just a naming for the tab. Here only it gets started. I am adding add user. User details which I have mapped here. So the same details I have to pass, like when I'm trying to save the details, right? So that detail I have to pass. For creation, I don't need to pass ID because that will be generated on the server side. Rest all detail I have to enter here, like email ID, gender, and the name. Let me add those details. There is no comma separated is required here, like we do in JSON. And then again curly braces for the response. Like once this operation is saved, now we have the response as user. So what you want to get? Now I want to take the ID because the ID is generated on the server end. So let me take that ID. So you have to fill it like this, and then you need to hit the play button. I'm just updating to add user details. Now let me hit that endpoint. As you can see, this debug is launched. You can see all the parameters correctly mapped. You can also see id is equal to 0, but after pushing it through the user service, the id will be generated. As you can see, it is now 6. So earlier we have done the query mapping. So let's go there and check if this new data is added or not. Yeah, the 6 is added. Okay. So likewise, you can perform the mutation mapping with the help of GraphQL for performing the save operation. Now similarly, let's do it for update user and delete user. Okay. So the same param for update as well. Same object, I'm going to use it for input and output as well. So the same mutation mapping again I have to use. Change your name to add user to update user for the new method. Okay, and update your service class. Okay, so here I'm going to check with the help of repository. If that is found, then only you perform update. If not there, that id, you can return null or you can put an exception as well. Okay, but while doing the update, make sure you need to pass the id, otherwise it is not going to be updated. I'm just updating that update user. It is not reflecting here. I have to reload this application because we have recently added into the schema class. So let me restart this application, and also you need to refresh your browser. Otherwise your file, this schema file will not load there. So it will be showing all grammar error. So now it got fixed. So which user id I need to update? So that I need to define. So I'm going to use id colon and whatever the user id that you want to perform the update. So I'm gonna perform with 7. So this id does not exist actually. Okay, I'm going to perform just to show you. It is going to return me a null response. Okay, so once you do that, you see it is returning null, and also in the user list there are no changes because that id does not match, right? So now let me update the id in the update user. Instead of 7, I will use 6 because that is already exist. Now let me update that. So in response, you see that details has been updated on the server and it is showing me properly. Okay, because in service we have put that find by column. Okay, just to find the details in the database and then update that. Now if I refresh here as well, you can see those details are updated in database. So that's how you can perform the update operation using GraphQL mutation mapping. Okay, now let's do one more mutation mapping, which is nothing but delete user. For that, you need to pass only ID. We don't need much detail. And in response, we are going to return the string. Okay. So let me copy this and use it for delete user, the same mutation mapping. In the argument, I'm going to use integer of ID, that is the input, and I'm going to use the existing service endpoint for deleting that user, and I'm passing the same ID here. Okay, this is giving me error because I'm returning user. Instead, I have to return string. That is how I have defined inside the service class. Now let me restart this application so that we can test the delete user functionality. So let me open another new tab here, the GraphQL. I have refreshed the page so that the delete user schema changes will reflect on the browser. So I'm going to use delete user, and inside that I have only one parameter, which is nothing but ID. So I'm giving 6, which is recently modified. And in response, I don't need to put this curly braces because I'm not having any object so that I can define what I want. Instead, you can put only function. So it is going to return only the string which I have defined in the service logic. Now we'll check in the complete list. So 6 is deleted. Okay. Now if I try to retry, it is going to tell me fail to delete, because that's how my logic will work on the service class. If that is found, then delete this. If not found, then just print a message in the response type. So we have seen the add detail, update detail, and delete detail, all those mutation mappings using Spring Boot GraphQL. Please like, share, and subscribe to my channel. Thank you.